The idea of a wiki, of a website that anyone can edit, was actually invented in 1995 by a guy named Ward Cunningham. And from 95 until 2001, when I launched Wikipedia, wikis were this small underground phenomenon on the web. And in fact, a lot of the wikis that were out there, they deliberately did things like hide themselves from the search engines, because the concern that they had was if anybody came to the wiki who was a malicious character, they would just destroy it. For example, they only kept 2 or 3 old revisions, which meant that if you're a vandal, you could come in and edit the page 3 times with curse words, and the old good version would be gone forever. So in the early days when I first set up Wikipedia, I really thought, well, I mean, this is really we're gonna have to lock everything down very quickly. But because the traditional project that I had before to create a free encyclopedia had failed, I really had this desire to say, okay, look, I know what went wrong the first time. It was top down, it was controlled, it was difficult for people to get involved. Now we have this other approach. I'm going to say stay as open as we can for as long as we possibly can. Let's just try this. Very quickly I changed the software to keep all of the old versions, because I realized that eliminates a major vulnerability. So the analogy that I like to give people, sort of a thought exercise, is to imagine that you've been assigned the task of designing a restaurant. So you're going to design a restaurant completely from scratch, blank sheet of paper. You have no preconceptions about what you're going to do. Free reign. It's an artistic project. You can do whatever you want. And so you think to yourself, okay, well, in this restaurant we're going to be serving steak. And whenever you're serving steak, the customers need to have access to knives. And if there's one thing we know about people with knives, is that they might stab each other. And so in the design of the restaurant, let's put everybody in a cage. We're going to have a cage around every table. Well, we all chuckle when we hear this idea, and we think, gosh, that would be a really bad society. We pretty much have a really good intuitive idea that basically, you go down the street and you meet 1,000 people. 999 of them are going to be perfectly friendly and fine, right? A handful of them will be sort of backstabbing drama queens if you got to know them, right? But in terms of just being sort of randomly violent or randomly malicious, it's very, very rare. 1 in 1,000, maybe less than that. And so it turns out the same thing's true online. The same thing is the same people online as everybody you see walking down the street. They're all online, and most of them are basically nice people. And they've got friends and family, and they're living their lives, and lots of different character flaws and this and that, but they're people, and they're mostly okay. And so when we think about designing a website, we should remember this restaurant analogy. And when we think about designing any kind of space for social interaction, we need this kind of analogy to say, look, basically, we need to go under the assumption that most people are good. And so we don't want to have systems that are designed around the worst people. At the same time, we can't be a complete Pollyanna about it, right? We have to understand that we need institutions in society to deal with those problems. And so in terms of people getting stabbed in restaurants, we have some things. We have ambulances and hospitals. We have the police to come, take the bad guy away. Unfortunately, online, in most cases, you actually can fix things, right? You can't stab people online. You can say mean things, and those things can be deleted. Those things can be gotten rid of. That person can be excluded. There actually are solutions that are pretty straightforward in most cases. And so when we think this way, I think it gives us a whole new approach to thinking about designing all kinds of software for social interactions, to really recognize that we need to design around the core of the good people, and yeah, keep in mind there are these troublemakers, and sometimes they can be quite noisy, and there's a lot of trouble around that. But that we don't want to design the system to treat everybody like a troublemaker from day one.